Today on Tricrow Studios, we do a comparison between the Gibson Les Paul Tribute and the Gibson Les Paul Standard 60s. Okay, so very quickly, what we're going to do here, I'm going to give you 5 different sound samples where I A-B between both of the guitars. And if you're a fan of this channel, or you're used to this channel and what have you, there's definitely going to be a full-on metal sound sample with a guitar solo put in there. Afterwards, we're going to talk about the similarities and the differences, and then I'll give what I like to call a non-swaying opinion, because I own both of these guitars, love both of these guitars, bought them at the exact same time, so I don't care if you like the more expensive one over the more budget-friendly one. Alright, so there you go. There were the 5 sound samples, and again, there was a full-on metal sound sample. So let's talk about the similarities, then we'll go over the differences, and then I'll give a, what I again like to call a non-swing opinion. So, first and foremost, for similarities, they're both Gibson Les Pauls. They both have the carved top to them with a mahogany body and a maple top. They both have the trapezoid inlays. They both have the 2-pneumatic with the stop bar and 2-volume and 2-tone. Also rosewood fretboards to them. That's really where the similarities somewhat end here. I kind of want to talk headstock to body now for differences. First and foremost, what some people don't really care about, most people don't really care about, but the Tribute here has what's called a silk-screened inlay on the top, or silk-screened logo, whereas the standard 60s has the inlaid logo on the top. After that, we are going to look at the tuners. So the standard 60s has the Grover Rotomatic tuners, whereas the Tribute has the Clouson style vintage Gibson Deluxe tuners. Next up, let's look at the necks. So we already know rosewood fretboard, trapezoid inlays, but there's a big difference in the necks. First and foremost, the standard 60s has the 60s profile, which is very, very similar, a little thicker than the slim taper neck, whereas the Tribute has a rounded neck profile. So it's thinner than a 50s baseball bat, but definitely more of a rounder feel than the standard 60s itself. The biggest difference here is that the standard 60s has a maple neck, or sorry, a mahogany neck, whereas the Tribute has a maple neck, so this can make it feel and sound a little snappier, I find. Don't know if that's really something that would suit people or not as a description, but it definitely has a little bit of a different feel to it. Next, we'll talk about the bodies. So again, mahogany bodies, maple top on them, both carved. However, the whole body and neck are finished different. So the standard 60s has the gloss nitro finish, whereas the Tribute itself has a satin nitro finish to it. A lot of people nowadays do enjoy the satin finishes on guitars. The gloss nitro finish, depending on the way that the lacquer was applied, there's a small chance that after like an hour's worth of playing, you can actually feel a little bit of gunk that's coming off your hands onto the neck, onto the finish of the neck when it comes to the gloss nitro finish. As well, it does give it a there's a more resonant sound. There's a little more low end acoustically and electrically on the satin finish, whereas there's a little more high end and presence built into the nitro finish, or the gloss nitro finish. The other really big thing here is this has the ultra modern weight relief. So Google the picture of it, because I'm not posting it here. But there's a lot of chambering that's being done here. So the body itself has a ton of holes in it to get the weight down. There's a lot of people that do like a lighter guitar, so this might be more up your alley. But if you're like me, you may prefer the non-weight relief, so there's no holes that are drilled into it other than the cavity for the electronics. So this is a much heavier guitar than this guitar here itself. And really, unless I'm really forgetting something, those are the big differences and similarities, of course, between both of these guitars. Now, I bought both of these guitars at the exact same time. Basically, I went in, I wanted to get a standard, so I tried out a standard 50s and a standard 60s and a AAA Flame standard 50s, but I really gravitated more towards the 60s because I do have a traditional, which is the standard 50s, basically. When I was waiting for them to find the case, basically, for this guitar, I went and played around with some of the Tributes. It took me 4 different Tributes, and when I looked at them, I wanted a completely different color. However, the neck on this, which is the satin iced tea finish, it doesn't actually have the like flamey type maple, and there's actually a different type of coloring finish on the back of the neck, and I don't know why, but that translated into a tiny bit of a thicker feel for me, more balanced feel for me. Again, this could all be in my head, but it's something that I found anytime that I have played a Tribute. So it took me 4 different guitars to settle on this one. I shouldn't use the word settle because I still haven't changed the strings on this. I haven't cleaned the fretboard or anything like that because this is a perfect example of a Tribute, and I really don't want to mess that up with a personal touch of mine. Not that I would, but that's just the thought that's going through my mind. So, Tribute, standard 60s. There's definitely a price difference. You could buy, basically, depending on this, if this is on sale or not, you could buy 2 or 3 of these versus 1 of these. This comes with the padded gig bag, which is almost as good as a hard shell case. There's that much padding in it. It's not like a gig bag itself. It's a padded case, I should say. And this comes with a hard case. This is also part of the modern series, whereas this is part of the original series. What does that mean? This has a PCB board in it rather than hand wiring. So the capacitor, it's not like an orange drop capacitor that's actually in here. The PCB is basically a money saver, and it's, in the case of like the Classic and the Les Paul Modern, it's a lot easier to actually wire up the different options that it has tonally for the tone pots, especially on the Modern, as I believe that still retains the dip switches. This is hand wired, and as well it has the orange drop capacitors in it. Now capacitors, just so you know, don't come into play unless you're actually rolling back the tone on the guitar. If you have it at full blast, the capacitor's not really being used. Does it matter as far as PCB versus hand wired? That's up to you. It doesn't really change the tone unless it's a hot wired or a hot shot that's going directly from the input to the bridge, basically, where it's bypassing the tone, which neither of these guitars have. It's just considered a premium. As well, if the PCB goes, which it does, or the potentiometers go, it's a little easier to replace the hand wired as it is on the PCB, or that is the general consensus around a lot of people that I've spoken to. Anyway, I don't want to talk anymore, basically. So thanks for watching. Again, it doesn't matter if you want the more expensive one or you want the the more budget-friendly one, or you want multiple versus just one. That's all up to you. I don't care. I own both, and I love the fact that I own both, and I play both quite a bit. Anyway, thanks for watching. I've been Ryan from Trico Studios, talking way too much, and I say good day.